The stars looked different that day. Captain Tejo stood on the bridge of his ship, the New Horizon, watching the alien vessel drift helplessly in space. Smoke poured from its broken hull. The ship was unlike anything humans had ever seen before, sleek and silver with strange writing glowing along its sides. "Sir, we're getting a distress signal," said his communications officer. It's not from Earth." Tejo felt his heart race. First contact. After all the years of dreaming, of wondering if humans were alone in the universe, here it was. But this wasn't how anyone had imagined it would happen. "Can you understand what they're saying?" he asked. "Working on it, sir. The computer is trying to translate." The officer frowned at his screen. "Sir, I think they're under attack." As if summoned by those words, dark shapes appeared from behind a nearby asteroid. The enemy ships were nothing like the silver vessel. They looked like metal, beasts all sharp edges and weapon ports. Red light poured from their engines like blood. "Those are the attackers," Tejo said quietly. "And they're coming for us too." The silver ship sent another message. This time, the computer managed a rough translation that appeared on the main screen. "Human vessel, flee now. Kethmore ships will destroy you. We are Altari. We mean no harm." Tejo looked at his crew. 2,000 brave men and women who had volunteered for humanity's first deep space mission. They had simple nuclear weapons and basic shields. The alien attackers had energy weapons that could cut through metal like paper. "Sir," his weapons officer said, "our missiles won't do much against ships like that." "Maybe not," Tejo replied, "but we can't just watch." The Kethmore ships opened fire on the Altari vessel. Bright beams of energy tore through its hull. The silver ship tried to fight back, but it was badly damaged. Soon it would be destroyed. "Send a message to Earth," Tejo ordered. "Tell them what we found out here. Tell them we're not alone." He paused, looking at the battle raging in space. "And tell them we tried to do the right thing." "Sir?" his first officer asked. "What are you planning?" Tejo smiled sadly. "Something stupid. Something brave. Load all nuclear missiles. Set them for maximum yield." The crew understood immediately. They had one chance to help the aliens who had warned them to flee. One chance to make a difference. It would cost them everything. "All missiles loaded, sir," the weapons officer reported. "Take us in," Tejo commanded, "right at their biggest ship." The New Horizon turned toward the Kethmore fleet. The human ship was small compared to the alien warships, but it moved with purpose. The Kethmore noticed the approaching vessel and fired warning shots. When the human ship didn't turn away, they fired to kill. "Shields down to 30%, someone called out. "Hull breach on deck 7. "Keep us on course," Tejo said calmly. "For Earth, for humanity, for doing what's right." The ship shook as more enemy fire hit them. Lights flickered, the air filled with smoke. But they kept flying straight at the largest Kethmore ship. "Distance to target. 500 meters, the navigation officer announced. 400. 300. Tejo thought about Earth, about his wife and children waiting for him to come home, about all the humans who would never know what happened here today. He hoped they would understand. 200 meters, sir." "Fire everything," Tejo commanded, "and may history remember we tried." 50 nuclear missiles launched from the New Horizon at point-blank range. The explosions lit up space like a new star being born. The Kethmore flagship died in fire and radiation. The other enemy ships, caught in the blast, fell back in confusion and fear. The New Horizon died too, taking Captain Tejo and all his crew with it, but their sacrifice saved the Altari ship. Commander Velthara of the Altari vessel watched the human ship disappear in the explosion. She had never seen such bravery. These humans had primitive technology and no chance of survival, yet they chose to fight anyway. They chose to help complete strangers. "Commander," her aide said, "the Kethmore ships are retreating." "Good," Velthara replied, but her voice was heavy with sadness. "Send out rescue probes. Search for survivors from the human ship." They found none. Every human had died in the explosion that saved the Altari fleet. 3 months later, Commander Velthara stood before the Galactic Council on the great space station that served as the government center for hundreds of worlds. Representatives from dozens of species filled the chamber, beings with scales, fur, tentacles, and stranger features. They all listened as she told the story of Captain Tejo and his crew. "These humans knew nothing about us," she said. "They had never seen our technology. They didn't know our customs or our laws. But when they saw us in danger, they chose to help. They gave their lives for strangers." The council chamber was quiet. Many species had heard of Earth, but few paid attention to the primitive world at the edge of the galaxy. "What are you asking of us, Commander?" asked the council speaker, a being that looked like a walking tree. "I am declaring a debt of stars," Velthara announced. "The highest obligation in Altari culture. Someday, somehow, we will repay what humanity did for us, no matter the cost, no matter how long it takes." Some council members nodded, others looked confused. The debt of stars was an ancient Altari tradition rarely invoked. It meant that the Altari people owed humanity a favor that could never be forgotten. But the galaxy is vast and time changes everything. Years passed. The Altari tried to contact Earth, but something strange happened. A barrier appeared around the human solar system, an energy field that blocked all communication and travel. Earth vanished behind this wall of force. Decades became centuries. The Altari themselves eventually disappeared, conquered by new enemies or lost to time. The Galactic Council changed. New species rose to power while others faded away. The story of Captain Tejo became a footnote in history books that fewer and fewer beings bothered to read. The debt of stars was forgotten by everyone except the humans themselves, locked away behind their mysterious barrier, waiting for their chance to return to the stars. Admiral Hyunwoo felt the ship shake as it pushed through the last layer of the Sol barrier. After 847 years, humanity was finally free to travel among the stars again. He stood on the bridge of the Remembrance watching Earth grow smaller behind them. "Barrier breach successful, sir," reported his navigation officer. "We are now outside the solar system for the first time since Captain Tejo's mission." Hyunwoo nodded. Every human knew that name. Every human knew the story. While the galaxy had forgotten about the debt of stars, humans had remembered everything. "Commander So Young, report to the bridge," Hyunwoo called over the ship's communication system. His daughter arrived quickly. She was the ship's cultural archivist, keeper of humanity's vast digital memory banks. Where other species kept books or data files, humans had developed something far more advanced. Perfect historical preservation that captured not just facts, but emotions, thoughts, and the full experience of every moment. "Father," So Young said, using the formal address required on the bridge. "The memory banks are fully active. Every record from Captain Tejo's mission is available for review." Hyunwoo smiled. "Show me the recording of Commander Velthara's speech to the Galactic Council." The bridge's main screen lit up with a perfect recreation of that moment 8 centuries ago. Every word, every gesture, every emotion was preserved exactly as it happened. The Altari commander's voice filled the bridge as she declared the debt of stars. "Sir," the communications officer interrupted, "we're receiving multiple signals from across the galaxy. It seems there's a lot of chatter on the communication networks." "What are they saying?" So Young asked. "It's hard to tell. The galaxy has changed a lot since we were last in contact. But from what I can understand, there's some kind of crisis happening. Something about an enemy called the Devourers." Hyunwoo frowned. "Devourers? That doesn't match any species in our historical records." "No, sir," So Young confirmed. "But there are references to something called the Kethmore in our oldest files. The same species that attacked the Altari ship all those years ago." Before Hyunwoo could respond, another officer spoke up. "Sir, Engineer Minho is requesting immediate access to the bridge. He says it's urgent. Send him up." Minho arrived a few minutes later, carrying a portable scanner and looking excited. "Admiral, you need to see this. I've been analyzing the energy patterns from across the galaxy and I found something impossible." "What do you mean?" Hyunwoo asked. Minho adjusted his scanner and pointed it toward a distant star system. There in the Kepler void. I'm detecting Altari energy signatures. So Young stepped forward. That's impossible. The Altari went extinct 200 years ago according to the last galactic records we received before the barrier went up. That's what I thought too, Minho said. But the energy pattern is definitely Altari. Their ships had a unique quantum resonance that nothing else in the galaxy could duplicate. Hyunwoo felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying there might be Altari survivors out there? It's possible, sir. The signals are weak, like they're hiding or in some kind of distress. The Admiral looked around at his crew. These weren't the same humans who had waved goodbye to Captain Taeho centuries ago. During their isolation, humanity had grown in ways the galaxy never expected. Unable to expand outward, they had turned inward, developing technologies that seemed like magic. Commander So Young, he said, access the cultural database. What do our records say about humanity's obligations? So Young closed her eyes for a moment, interfacing directly with the ship's memory systems through her neural implants. The debt of stars was accepted by humanity as a whole, not just the Altari. Captain Taeho's sacrifice created a bond between our species. If there are Altari survivors, we are honor-bound to help them. Even after all this time? Especially after all this time, So Young replied firmly. We are what we remember, Father, and we remember everything. Hyunwoo nodded. During the centuries of isolation, humans had developed something unique. They never forgot anything. Every moment, every promise, every debt was preserved perfectly in their collective memory. While other species grew old and died, forgetting the past, humans carried their entire history with them always. Sir, the communications officer called out. I'm getting more detailed reports about this crisis. The Devourers aren't just another hostile species. There's something much worse. They consume entire worlds, leaving nothing behind. Dozens of civilizations have already been destroyed. And the galactic government? Hyunwoo asked. Collapsed 300 years ago. The remaining species have formed small defensive alliances, but they're losing badly. From what I can tell, most of the galaxy has given up hope. Hyunwoo walked to the main viewing port and stared out at the stars. Behind them lay Earth and the solar system where humanity had spent centuries learning, growing, and preparing for this day. Ahead lay a galaxy in crisis, species facing extinction, and possibly the last survivors of the people who had once tried to save Captain Taeho. Set course for the Kepler void, he commanded. Maximum speed. Sir, his first officer said quietly, our ships are untested outside the solar system. We don't know how our new technologies will perform in a combat situation. Hyunwoo smiled. Then we'll learn quickly. Commander So Young, prepare a message for Earth. Tell them we've found what we're looking for. What exactly are we looking for, sir? She asked. A chance to pay our debts, Hyunwoo replied. A chance to show the galaxy that humans never forget a favor, and we never abandon our friends. As the remembrance jumped to faster-than-light travel, using humanity's new phase jump technology, alarms began sounding across multiple galactic civilizations. Their sensors had detected something impossible. Ships appearing out of nowhere, traveling faster than anything they had ever seen. The humans were back, and they brought with them technologies that would make the galaxy question everything they thought they knew about power, about death, and about the species they had forgotten in the outer rim of space. But first, they had a debt to repay. Captain Jae-sung watched the massive alien space station grow larger on his ship's main screen. The Promise Keeper approached slowly, broadcasting peaceful intentions in 17 different galactic languages. After 8 centuries, humanity was making first contact all over again. They're responding, his communications officer reported. The Therian Collective agrees to meet with us, but they sound confused. Confused how? Jae-sung asked. They keep asking who we are and where we came from. When I told them we're from Earth, they had to check their historical databases. Apparently, most species thought humans went extinct centuries ago. Jae-sung nodded. He wasn't surprised. Humanity had vanished behind the Sol barrier so long ago that they had become a footnote in galactic history. What the galaxy didn't expect was how much humans had changed during their isolation. The Promise Keeper docked with the Therian station. Jae Sung and his diplomatic team were escorted through corridors filled with aliens he had only seen in historical records. The Therians looked like upright wolves with silver fur and sharp teeth. They had become the dominant power in this part of the galaxy after humanity disappeared. Chancellor Mordex waited in a grand chamber decorated with the flags of dozens of species. He was an old Therian with scars across his snout and suspicious eyes. Around him sat representatives from other civilizations, beings with tentacles, crystals for skin, and shapes that hurt to look at directly. "So," Mordex growled, "humans still exist. This is unexpected. Our records show your species vanished from the galaxy over 800 years ago. Where have you been?" "Isolated," Jae Sung replied simply. "But we never forgot our obligations." "Obligations?" A representative with blue scales and 4 arms spoke up. "What obligations could a primitive species like humanity possibly have?" Jae Sung remained calm. "We've come to honor the debt of stars made to the Altari people." The chamber fell silent. Then several aliens began laughing. "The Altari?" Mordex shook his head. "They've been extinct for 2 centuries. And this debt of stars you mention, that's ancient history, primitive mythology. Not to us," Jae Sung said firmly. "We remember everything." A Therian advisor whispered something in Mordex's ear. The Chancellor frowned and looked at a data pad. "Our military sensors detected your ship's approach. Your technology is unusual. How did you travel here so quickly?" "Phase jump drive," Jae Sung explained. "We developed it during our isolation." "More," whispers around the chamber. Phase jump technology was theoretical at best. Most species still relied on hyperspace lanes that could take weeks to cross the galaxy. "Impossible," declared a being that looked like a walking crystal. "No species has successfully created instant travel technology." "Would you like a demonstration?" Jae Sung offered. Before anyone could answer, alarms began sounding throughout the station. Emergency lights flashed red as an automated voice announced, "Devourer ships detected. All defensive fleets report to stations immediately." Mordex jumped to his feet. "How many ships?" 30 Devourer cruisers approaching from the outer system," a Therian officer reported. "They'll be here in 6 hours." The Chancellor turned to Jae Sung. "Human, if you have advanced technology, now would be a good time to use it. The Devourers have destroyed 12 civilizations this month alone. We can't hold against 30 of their ships." "How many ships do you have?" Jae Sung asked. 15. "Cruisers and 40 fighters, not enough." Jae Sung activated his communication device. "Promise Keeper to Defensive Coordinator Yoonji. We have a situation." A woman's voice responded immediately. "I'm monitoring, Captain. Shall I bring the fleet through?" "Do it." Space around the Therian. Station suddenly filled with human ships. Not 15 or 40, but 300 vessels that appeared out of nowhere in flashes of blue light. The alien sensors couldn't track where they had come from. They simply materialized as if they had always been there. "By the void," Mordex whispered, staring at the tactical display. "How many ships do you have?" "This is just one battle group," Jae Sung replied casually. "Coordinator Yoonji, please demonstrate our defensive capabilities for our new friends." "Understood, Captain." On the main screen, they watched as the approaching Devourer fleet suddenly stopped. The massive alien warships, each the size of a city, began spinning in place as if caught in invisible webs. "What's happening to them?" the crystalline being asked. "Phase lock technology," Jae Sung explained. "Their ships are now frozen between dimensions. They can't move, can't fire, can't even send communications." The Therian military officers stared in disbelief. The Devourer fleet that had terrified them moments before was now completely helpless. "Are they destroyed?" Mordex asked. "No, just contained. We prefer to avoid killing when possible. They can sit there and think about their life choices." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, Reconnaissance Officer Yu Jin was making an even more shocking discovery. Her small scout ship had followed the Altari energy signatures to a hidden system in the Kepler void. What she found there changed everything. "This is Scout Ship Seeker to Admiral Hyunwoo," she transmitted. "I found them, sir. The Altari. Survivors." The response came immediately. "Are you certain?" "Positive, sir. There's a small colony here, maybe a few thousand individuals. They're hiding on a planet that's been artificially concealed. Their technology is keeping it invisible, from long-range sensors." "What's their condition?" Eugen's voice became sad. "Not good, sir. They're dying from some kind of plague. Their population has been declining for centuries." Back on the Therian station, Chancellor Mordex was trying to process what he had witnessed. "Your technology is centuries beyond anything we possess. Why reveal yourselves now? And why help us?" "Because," Jae-sung said, 847 years ago, an Altari commander saved our first starship from the ancestors of these devourers. She declared a debt of stars, a promise that her people would help humanity if we ever needed it." "But the Altari are extinct," Mordex protested. "Not all of them. And even if they were, the debt remains. Humans don't forget promises, Chancellor. We don't forget favors. We don't forget friends." Jae-sung stood up and walked to the large viewing port. Space was filled with human ships, their sleek hulls gleaming with technologies the galaxy had never seen. "Your people, all the species of the galaxy, wrote humanity off as a primitive footnote in history. You forgot we existed. You forgot our sacrifice. You forgot the bonds that were made." He turned back to face the assembled aliens. "But we remembered everything, and now we're back to settle our debts." The implications of his words slowly sank in around the chamber. Humanity hadn't just survived their isolation. They had evolved beyond anything the galaxy thought possible. And they were offering their help to civilizations that had forgotten they existed. "What do you want in return?" Mordex asked quietly. "To fulfill our obligations," Jae-sung replied. "To save the Altari survivors, to protect the galaxy from the devourers, to prove that some promises are worth keeping, no matter how much time passes." As if summoned by his words, another communication came through. "Captain, this is Admiral Hyunwoo. We've confirmed Altari survivors in the Kepler void. They're in critical condition. We need to move fast." Jae-sung nodded. "The galaxy is about to learn something important about humanity, Chancellor. We never forget a favor, and we never abandon our friends." Admiral Hyunwoo's ship, the Remembrance, dropped out of phase jump near the hidden Altari colony. The planet looked dead from space, a brown, lifeless world that most explorers would ignore. But human sensors could see through the concealment, technology that kept it hidden. There, Commander So-young pointed at the tactical display. Energy readings consistent with a small civilization, maybe 3,000 life signs. "Take us down," Hyunwoo ordered. "But carefully. They've been hiding for centuries. They might think we're enemies." The Remembrance descended through the planet's atmosphere. As they got closer, the concealment field flickered and revealed the truth. Cities dotted the surface, not large ones, but clearly built by an advanced civilization. The architecture was beautiful, all flowing lines and crystalline towers that caught the sunlight. But something was wrong. Many of the buildings stood empty. Streets that should have been busy were quiet. This was a civilization slowly dying. "Sir," the communications officer called out. "We're receiving a transmission. It's in ancient Altari." "Can you translate it?" Hyunwoo asked. Commander So-young interfaced with the ship's memory banks. "Yes, they're asking who we are and how we found them. They sound frightened." "Tell them we're humans. Tell them we've come because of Captain Taeho and the Debt of Stars." So-young translated the message and sent it. For several minutes there was no response. Then the communications officer looked up with wonder. "Sir, they're responding with a single word repeated over and over." "What word?" "Impossible." An hour later, Hyunwoo and So-young stood in the council chamber of the Altari colony. The room was smaller than they expected, with only a dozen elderly Altari present. These were the last leaders of a once great civilization. Elder Thelanos was ancient even by Altari standards. His silver skin was marked with intricate patterns that showed his age and wisdom. When he saw the humans, tears began flowing from his large, dark eyes. "You came," he whispered. "After all this time, you actually came." "The dead of stars," Hyun-woo said simply. "Your ancestors called and we answered." Thelanos gestured for them to sit. "I never thought I would live to see this day." For 8 centuries, our people have told stories about the brave humans who died to save our fleet, stories about the promise Commander Velthara made to your species. "We never forgot," So Young said. "Every human child learns about Captain Tae-ho. Every human knows about the debt we owe your people." "Debt you owe us?" Thelanos looked confused. "Child, you have it backwards. We owe you everything." The elder stood and walked to a large window overlooking the dying city. 200 years ago, the Devourers found our homeworld. They didn't just attack us, they poisoned us. They released a plague designed specifically to kill Altari. It spread slowly, taking decades to show symptoms, but it always kills in the end. "How many of you are left?" Hyun-woo asked. 3,218, Thelanos said sadly. "When the plague first appeared, we had billions. We tried to find a cure, tried to fight back, but the Devourers kept hunting us. We were forced to hide here, watching our people die one by one." So Young stood up suddenly. "Elder, may I examine some of your medical records? Humans have developed advanced treatments during our isolation. You can try, but our best scientists couldn't find a cure. What makes you think?" Thelanos stopped mid-sentence as So Young's eyes began glowing with soft blue light. She was accessing the ship's memory banks directly, downloading centuries of human medical knowledge in seconds. When the glow faded, she looked excited. "Father, we need Dr. Changmin down here immediately." "The xenobiologist? Why?" "Because this plague isn't natural. It's artificial, designed to target specific Altari genetic markers. But our quantum medical technology might be able to rewrite it." Within an hour, Dr. Changmin arrived with a full medical team. The middle-aged scientist spent only minutes examining Altari tissue samples before confirming So Young's suspicions. "This is definitely artificial," he announced. "Whoever created it understood Altari biology perfectly, but they made one mistake. They assumed genetic code couldn't be changed. Our quantum reconstruction technology can rewrite DNA on a molecular level." "Can you cure it?" Elder Thelanos asked, hope creeping into his voice. "I think so. Give me 12 hours. While Dr. Changmin worked on the cure, Captain Miran led a fleet of medical ships to begin distributing supplies to the Altari colony. But as her ships approached the planet, proximity alarms started screaming. "Captain!" her weapons officer shouted. "Devourer ships decloak off our starboard bow." 12 massive Devourer warships appeared out of nowhere surrounding the human medical fleet. These weren't the relatively small cruisers they had faced at the Therion station. These were the Devourer's heavy assault ships, each one capable of destroying entire planets. "How did they find us?" Miran demanded. "Unknown, Captain. Their stealth technology is more advanced than we expected." The lead Devourer ship opened communications. The voice that came through was harsh and mechanical, translated by the ship's computers. "Humans, we know what you are trying to do. You cannot save the Altari. They are already dead. They just haven't finished dying yet." Miran activated her ship's battle systems. "This is Captain Miran of the Human Medical Fleet. You are interfering with a humanitarian mission. Withdraw immediately." Laughter came through the communications channel. "Humanitarian mission? How quaint. We have been tracking your species since you left your solar system. You are more advanced than we expected, but you are still just primitives playing with technology. You don't understand." "Then let us show you what primitives can do," Miran replied. The Devourer ships opened fire first, sending massive energy beams toward the human medical vessels, but the beams passed right through them without effect. "Phase shift active," Miran's tactical officer reported. "We're partially shifted out of normal spacetime. Their weapons can't touch us." "Return fire," Miran commanded. "Show them what human weapons can do." The human ships fired back with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Instead of energy beams or projectiles, they used phase displacement cannons that didn't destroy enemy ships. They erased them from existence entirely. The Devourer vessels simply vanished, as if they had never been there at all. In minutes, the entire enemy fleet was gone. Back on the planet's surface, Elder Thelanos had watched the battle through the colony's sensors. He turned to Admiral Hyun-woo with amazement. Your weapons, they don't just destroy, they unmake. We learned during our isolation that sometimes the kindest thing you can do for an enemy is to help them stop existing. Hyun-woo replied quietly. Death is just another state of being. Non-existence is peace. Dr. Chang-min chose that moment to burst into the room, carrying a small medical device. I've got it, he announced. The cure works. I've tested it on tissue samples and it completely reverses the plague. We can save them all. Elder Thelanos fell to his knees, overwhelmed by emotion. 8 centuries, he whispered. 8 centuries we've waited for this moment. But their celebration was cut short by an urgent communication. From Earth. Admiral, the voice crackled with interference. This is Fleet Command. The Devourers have launched simultaneous attacks on 12 major galactic civilizations. They're using the same stealth technology we just encountered. It's like they wanted us to reveal our capabilities. Hyun-woo felt a chill of understanding. They were testing us. The attack on the medical fleet wasn't random. They wanted to see what we could do. Commander So-young accessed the galactic communication networks. Father, I'm reading massive casualty reports. Billions are dying across the galaxy. The Devourers aren't just attacking. They're accelerating their timeline. Why? Elder Thelanos asked. Hyun-woo looked out at the stars where the fate of the galaxy was being decided. Because they know we're back, and they're afraid of what that means. Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho stood in the command center of humanity's largest warship, the Eternal Promise, watching as tactical displays showed the galaxy burning. 12 major civilizations were under attack. Billions were dying. The Devourers had revealed their true plan at last. Sir, his intelligence officer reported, we've decoded more Devourer communications. They're not just trying to conquer the galaxy, they're trying to consume it. What do you mean? Kyung-ho asked. They've been building a massive weapon at the Galactic Core, something they call the Heart Eater. It's designed to drain the life force from entire star systems and feed it into their ships. Chief Engineer Hyejin looked up from her analysis station. Admiral, if they activate this weapon at the Galactic Core, it will create a cascade effect. The gravitational collapse will destroy local space-time. They're not trying to rule the galaxy. They're trying to eat it and escape to another one. Kyung-ho felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just about honoring an ancient debt anymore. This was about saving everything that lived in their galaxy. How long do we have? He asked. Based on energy readings, maybe 6 hours before they can fire the weapon, Hyejin replied. And how long to reach the Galactic Core with our fastest ships? 8 hours, even with phase jump technology. Kyung-ho nodded grimly. Then we'll have to do something they don't expect. He activated the fleet-wide communication system. All human ships, this is Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho. Prepare for Operation Remembrance. Across the galaxy, human captains received their orders with grim determination. They would not arrive in time to stop the weapon conventionally, but humanity had learned secrets during their isolation that went beyond advanced technology. Captain Dong-hyun commanded a small strike force near the Galactic Rim. His ships were fast, designed for deep reconnaissance rather than heavy combat. When he received his orders, he smiled sadly. You heard the Admiral, he told his crew. We're not just fighting for the galaxy. We're fighting to prove that some promises are sacred, that some debts can never be forgotten. His ships began their final jump toward the Galactic Core, knowing they wouldn't survive what came next. At the Altari colony, Elder Thelanos watched as human medical teams continued treating his people. The cure was working perfectly. Altari, who had been dying for decades, were returning to health. But he could see the sadness in Admiral Hyun-woo's eyes. You're going to leave us to fight this battle, the elder said quietly. We have to, Hyun-woo replied. The Devourers won't stop with the current civilizations. If they consume the Galactic Core, everyone dies, even Earth. Take us with you, Thelanos said suddenly. Elder, your people are just recovering. Admiral, the old Altari interrupted, 8 centuries ago. Your Captain Teho died protecting my ancestors. Today, let us return the favor. Hyunwoo was about to refuse when his daughter, Commander So Young, spoke up. Father, I'm reading something strange in the quantum field fluctuations around the galactic core. What kind of strange? The same signatures we detect around Earth when someone accesses the memory banks, but much stronger. Her eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. Father, there are human consciousness patterns at the galactic core. Thousands of them. That's impossible, Hyunwoo said. No human ships have been there. So Young's voice became a whisper. Not living humans, Father. But consciousness doesn't die the way we used to think it did. At the galactic core, the massive devourer weapon was almost ready to fire. The Heart Eater was a construction of impossible size, a metallic structure that stretched across multiple star systems, drawing power from black holes and dying stars. The Devourer Commander, a being of pure malevolence called the Hunger King, watched his weapon charge with satisfaction. Soon, he would consume this galaxy's life force and move on to richer hunting grounds, but then his sensors detected something impossible. Ships were appearing around his weapon, not just the advanced human vessels he had been tracking, but something else. Older ships, primitive ships that should have been destroyed centuries ago. What are those? He demanded. His lieutenant checked the readings. The signatures matched. No, this can't be right. According to our databases, these are human ships from their first contact period. But they were all destroyed. The Hunger King looked closer at the sensor readings. Among the advanced human fleet, dozens of ancient vessels had appeared. At their head flew a small ship with primitive nuclear weapons and basic shields. The New Horizon. Captain Teho stood on the bridge of his reconstructed vessel, exactly as he had 8 centuries ago. But now he understood what death really meant for humans. It wasn't an ending. It was just a different way of existing. All ships, his voice carried across both normal and quantum communication channels. This is Captain Teho of the New Horizon. We have a promise to keep. Around the galactic core, thousands of human consciousness patterns began manifesting as physical ships. These were the dead of humanity. Everyone who had ever lived and chosen to remain connected to the collective memory. They could exist as pure thought or take physical form when needed. Fleet Admiral Kyung-ho watched in amazement as his fleet was joined by every human who had ever died defending others. Warriors from Earth's ancient wars, explorers who had perished. In the void, scientists who had sacrificed themselves for discovery. All of them returned to fight one final battle. Impossible, the Hunger King snarled. The dead cannot return. You never understood humans, Captain Teho's voice replied across all communication channels. We don't forget. We don't abandon our friends, and we don't stay dead when there's work to be done. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Devourers fought with weapons that could destroy planets, but the humans fought with something more powerful. Absolute determination backed by technologies that treated death as merely an inconvenience. When Devourer weapons destroyed human ships, they simply reformed from quantum energy. When the Hunger King tried to phase shift his forces out of normal space, the humans followed them between dimensions. There was nowhere the Devourers could run that humanity couldn't follow. You cannot win, the Hunger King screamed as his forces were systematically unmade. We have consumed 100 galaxies, and we remember every species you destroyed. Admiral Kyung-ho replied calmly. Every civilization you consumed, every life you ended. Today, we collect the debt you owe them all. The final moment came when Captain Teho's reconstructed ship approached the Heart Eater. Just as he had 8 centuries ago, he prepared to sacrifice everything to save others. For the Altari, he said quietly. For the galaxy. For the promise we made. The New Horizon fired every weapon it had directly into the Heart Eater's core. The explosion that followed unmade the massive weapon and every Devourer ship in the E system. But this time Captain Teho didn't die. He simply returned to his existence as pure consciousness. his duty finally complete. Across the galaxy, the remaining Devourer forces fled in terror. They had expected to face primitive organics with simple weapons. Instead, they had encountered something unprecedented, a species that had transcended death itself and would never stop fighting for what they believed in. In the aftermath, Elder Thelano stood with Admiral Hyunwoo on the bridge of the Remembrance, watching as human ships began establishing permanent monitoring stations around the galaxy. "The debt of stars is fulfilled," the Elder said formally. "No," Hyunwoo replied with a smile. "The debt is just beginning. We learned something during our isolation, Elder. The greatest strength isn't in conquering or consuming. It's in remembering who you are and protecting those who matter to you." Commander So-young approached them with a communication pad. "Father, we're receiving messages from every surviving civilization in the galaxy. They're all asking the same question." "What question?" "They want to know if humanity will stay and help protect the galaxy from future threats." Hyunwoo looked out at the stars, where human ships were already beginning their eternal patrol. "Tell them that humans never forget a favor, and we never abandon our friends. We'll be here as long as anyone needs us." Elder Thelano smiled, the first truly happy expression his species had worn in centuries. "Then the galaxy is in good hands." As the years passed, the story of humanity's return became legend throughout the galaxy. Children of a dozen species learned about Captain Taeho and the debt of stars. But more importantly, they learned that some promises are worth keeping, no matter how much time passes or how impossible fulfillment might seem. And in the quiet depths of space, human ships continued their watch, ensuring that no species would ever again face extinction alone. Because humans never forget a favor, and they never abandon their friends.